Astralis? Let's talk about Astralis. Let's talk about Astralis alongside with Vanir, a team that is in first on NLC social media clash and one that is in last place. But that doesn't reflect how the standings are right now in our NLC summer split. The Astralis are one game away from getting a really, really good position, the opposite of what they got in spring split. Meanwhile, Vanir are the opposite as well.
Why are we whispering? We
I
can't
don't
go
know.
ASMR.
ASMR for the chat. You guys are awesome.
All right, so if we're going to talk about Astralis, I feel like they have completely grasped how they want to play the game, right? They've put Grisberg back onto his carries. They put a lot of emphasis on getting him out of lane. And I feel like the addition of Kiba, yet again, I've been saying this every single broadcast like a broken record, has been nothing but positive for the bot side of the map. I feel that 2v2 is looking very promising every single time. I don't think there have been many unnecessary, if any, deaths on the bot side. And I feel like later on, especially I remember Kiba on his Renata, he was spot on in these team fights. And yeah, we saw a tweet from Taxer as well that said, you know, guys, we're winning these games. And yes, there are 4-2 right now, which is really promising for the team, right? Oh, we had it on the screen. On the screen.
What happened?
Production. There it is. Thank you so much, production.
Ah.
Smurfing. He said, incredible improvement from us today compared to last week. We are still playing way too passive and hesitant, but it's getting a lot better. And that's exactly been our criticism towards Astralis as well. We're like, we know Taxa plays a mean Lee Sin, especially when he's on that champion. He's extremely proactive in the early game, but can he transform this same energy into other champions? Because Astralis needs to start getting going a little bit earlier, I feel like.
What about Vanir test?
I mean, I think Vanir, it's the same for like every team that are struggling right now. I feel like they're really struggling to find their identity. I mean, I think I saw a couple of times when I was casting Ericsson, he was having that counter pick, but he always opted to go for just the control mage regardless. This gives enemy teams so much like durability in draft. They can kind of blind pick like the champs like Corki, Victor, and they kind of know that Ericsson is probably not going to punish it by picking like a melee champion like the Yone, as we've seen other mid laners do. And I think Vanir, they just have to really go back to the drawing table now. They have strong laners. It's not like they're a weak team, but. And I know their coach as well, Flash. This guy is actually one of the best coaches I ever had. So I think if they can just listen to Flash, guys, that's all I'm saying, and let him make you a good draft and play for that. The mid game obviously being the challenge for all the teams. I think
like
Vanir.
to Torok. Everyone says don't listen to Torok.
This guy's listen to Flash. Man. It's not Torok. Listen to Flash. He has the idea on the bag. Let's see if he's going to pull it off in the champion select that is going to appear right now for you guys.
Boom.
Which button did we press, though? We pressed a lot of
every single button.
A lot of buttons here.
Well, it started anyway, Chad. We got you covered. Champion select coming in. Remind yourselves that we're on 12.11. A lot of changes come in, so let's see what picks are going to be here. Talia so far has been banned, even though the changes, even though she's probably going for more of the mid lane pick, she's being removed as well. Lilia as well.
It's just generally just as obnoxious, right?
Yeah.
It's the problem that she can roam the map very quickly. If you kill her, she can be on the map again really quickly by roaming around the walls. I think her ultimate is very oppressive when a lot of teams want to fight around objectives 5 versus 5. If you block them with the wall, then they can't enter, then you start stacking dragons really easily, right? So I don't blame teams that are still banning Talia. Katarina's a huge counter, by the way, in the mid lane. But as we can see here, a lot of emphasis down the bottom. We saw this in the LEC, right? A lot of the bans are going to fall towards that side of the map because there's so much versatility and S tier picks.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned as well, right, Kiba is being such a solid pick. He has so many champions he can play, but especially the Renata, just getting that one off the board right away. I mean, just puts like kind of a dagger in Astralis armor. Not going to be enough though, of course, but the support ban again, Karma. I mean, as you mentioned, bot lane being kind of dominant in the draft so far in the LEC, and also this. I mean, we have 100% bot.
5 out of 6?
Yeah, 5 out of 6. Let's go. 6 out of 6 as well. Let's go, come on.
Okay,
It'll be fun, but leaves a lot in the jungle, though.
I'm just thinking what has not been banned, and Zeri is the only thing that comes to mind, and I'm pretty sure that Grisberg could potentially want to have this, you know, given to him. He likes late game scaling AD carries, and he'd be more than happy to pick this one up in the bot lane. It's gonna be the Talia that you mentioned as well, Ashram, and now there's the potential for a Wukong first pick, handshake into the Volibear, or you pick up the Zeri or the Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen most teams just go for the Wukong, right? Feels like it's just working, and that's like kind of the champion that got hit least with the nerfs. Obviously, just the kind of jungle camps being a bit clearer, but Wukong obviously gonna be the lock-in as well for Astralis. And now you would just assume that Vanir is just gonna handshake with the Sarah, right? With the perhaps the Volibear as well. But it's just for me, it's like when there are so many bot lane bans now as well, it kind of leaves up all these champions. Obviously, the Astralis still being open. Are they just gonna go for that instead of the Seri?
That is not just an Ezreal. That is Kevo's Ezreal. So it is one of his most prominent champions, the one that he's most confident on. And I would also really like to see, and that's my personal idea, potentially the Volibear into the Wukong, or the Lee Sin even into the Wukong because it's Kraox, but he's gonna lock in
The Viego. It's locked in.
Yeah, it's not going to be handshake this time around. I mean, Viego obviously being a solid jungle all around the board. I mean, I think Wukong is just still a bit more oppressive in this patch. But this just gives kind of, when you blind pick Ezreal like this, obviously it's going to be a solid one for Mervs. He's going to be chilling on this. Maybe not the 2-item rule for Attila, but the 3 items Mervs, come on, man. I mean, I trust me, this guy is just going to pop off as well. But that just gives Sarah kind of the free matchup as well in the bot lane. And now you're looking at the Astralis draft. They have 2 OP champions, like really oppressive ones, and they have the 3rd pick as well. You could just assume that they might just pick a support there because the support champ is just so pinned.
So we've seen a bunch of things like the Nautilus potentially going around, and Ezreal is like very slippery. You could go for something like this, but usually like on the red side, you want to make sure that you secure something that's very blind pickable, and Gnar is one of those blind pickable things. Now going into Hesir that really likes to play these brawly fighter champions, I would potentially maybe even see an Aurelia ban thrown their way unless they want to pick it here because it's a huge counter to Gnar, and you can play with the Viego aggressive towards the top side of the map since you have an Ezreal down bot.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I guess it's just going to be another handshake, right? I mean, the Gnar, the GP, we have been the GP, as I would like to call it. We have been seeing this matchup so a lot lately, and for me, this matchup is obviously GP scales a bit better. Gnar can be so dominant in the fights, though, but it's just been, for me, I cannot really grasp the top matchup. Obviously, being an AD carry main, top lane is really far away from me, but I've seen Gnar smash the GP into the ground. I've seen GP get kind of free sheen on the first base as well, and then just kind of smash the Gnar. I kind of don't know where this goes.
My problem here is that I'm seeing a very passive Vanir. You've got Ezreal towards the both side of the map, Gangplank wants to scale into the late game, you've got a Viego that usually wants to chill into the jungle and just come into later on fights, grab his resets, be inspired, 1v5, pentakill, yada yada. But on the other side, I see a lot of proactivity. You can drag your Mega Gnar into objectives in 5 versus 5. Wukong is a great fighter as well into the early stages of the game. So I'm looking to see what potentially Vanir can do here to sort of bridge that gap between the early and the mid game so they don't completely fall behind in active.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure they have to look to at least get some proactivity. I would assume that, I would assume they will just pick Rakan on 4, but Astralis knows it's already, they're just going to ban it out. With this is the problem, right? We have Ericsson now with a potential last pick once again for Vanir, but is he going to be able to actually get a good counter pick in this matchup? Because they need something to play for, as you mentioned, Trouble. They have Ezreal and GP, 2 double scaling lanes. They need some proactivity in mid for sure.
Maybe my only problem is that right now you need consistent AP damage. And I'm thinking control mates, which is another scaling pick in the mid lane, like something like a Victor potentially or an Orianna, because you need that consistent AP damage to come in from somewhere since you have so much AD already locked in, right? So I'm looking at the mid and I'm like, oh, okay, another scaling champion. What do in the early game, boys?
Yeah, maybe they just go the M&M route, you know, lose lane and you win game. Even though M&M, they fall so close to the finishing line. Nautilus though, with Renata being banned, this is what I do every time I get filled. I just first pick Nautilus, I ban Renata.
3,
it's just
4,
super chill.
5, 6, 7 support bans this game.
Bot lane is just super broken, what can I say? Just looks completely busted. And then we have actually like, imagine this many bans and you have Ezreal Sarah, like kind of like really passive lane. There's not a lot going on, but as I mentioned, that passiveness seems to be the game for Astralis as well. Not as much as Vanir, but the Corki lock-in, you're just going to be farming on this one. Please, Ericsson, maybe look the cast in.
You have some displeased casters as well with the Corki.
As well. They got really displeased with this one, but late game is going to be a menace for the Astralis.
His hammer, okay.
I mean, we don't talk about those. We always get baited by them.
I think
I like it.
This is pretty good here. No!
Another sigh from our caster duo.
Well, if we're talking about disappointment, this is the exact face of it. Disappointment going on. I was looking into those
Come on,
champions.
hit me with the Victor. Hit
Go
me with the
Castlin,
Victor.
go Castlin.
I mean,
It's not even
Hit
that
me
good,
with
but
the Azir versus
I thought
Corki.
about Azir would be a
Azir
good
makes
one.
sense. I'm not gonna lie.
If you want to
Azir
lock
makes
in,
sense.
Lissandra could come in. Why would you curse us, Trouble? Why would you do this to us?
I think not.
I can't stand this.
Well,
You are at fault.
Have fun, guys. See you after 50 minutes.
This is going to be a long one for the record. Astralis versus Vanir, 40 minutes in, probably 50. As one side we have Nirvana, on the other side we have just disappointment.
He's trying, okay? Really hard to keep his cool.
one thing though, Astralis they're kind of similar where they don't really like to be proactive in the early game as much as other teams. They kind of look to scale into the mid and late game. And what does Vanir do? They pick literally 3 scaling lanes. Maybe this could be the recipe for success for them.
Okay, I like a little bit more Astralis because I feel
Yeah.
like they can teamfight when they have the
Yeah.
packets and when they have Wukong level 6, right? And a lot of the LEC teams would roll around objectives non-stop to try and stack them. So I feel like if there is a saving grace, I think that level 6 into the river with the packets might be the saving grace for Astralis in the early game.
So at the end of the day, or at the end of this champion select, I would say Astralis are trying to climb into the sky. Vanir cannot be left behind in the standings, so they need this one. What I do know is a lot of minions are going to perish today until we get into 60 minutes. Well, good luck. Initialize in iMeta.
Will be calm as the game will be for the first 30 minutes of the game. I will not throw too many horrible words on cast because I'm so angry at this. I will not lose my cool here as I have to cast Victor Corki. Durability patch is great for pro
The
play.
only way I can describe these drafts is both teams have chosen immobility as a mode of transport. I heard you laugh. That was
I
funny.
am trying to
Get out of here.
balance
Leave us
on
to our
one leg
misery.
here as a method of, I don't know, zen. And I'm like,
You're trying to be more interactive than the
the game will be
Yeah.
potentially early on. Astralis and Vanir, you have failed to live up to your Viking roots in history and have...
You know, I actually discovered that I have a Viking drinking horn today.
you do.
We moved
Discovered,
a lot of
you
stuff
rediscovered.
out with us when we moved countries here to cast the
did.
NLC. On days like this, on games like this, I wonder if I wonder if I should have brought something to go in the drinking horn.
Water, clearly. Nothing else would
Stay hydrated out there. It's
be
been a hot
hydrated,
weekend. It's been
people.
a very hot weekend.
That was a very, intense opening to the rift there with a little bit of stinger music going on.
all downhill from
Congratulations,
here.
production. It's very pretty, but I feel it's a little bit against what we were expecting in this game because we have got Ezreal Victor Gangplank versus Gnar, Corki, and Zeri with a Tahm Kench. This is
Yes.
like non-interaction the draft.
Yeah, so I would like to put a message, a psychic message through the airwaves.
Do it.
Specifically
How did you
to-
do that, by the way?
Well, it's not a power that the it's not something that the Jedi would tell you. That's what I was going for. I,
I see that.
It is a power it's a great responsibility to have this power. But I'm going to, psychically message Zaremba as the one person. Zaremba, you are our only hope.
Yes.
Please be the most sociopathic player I have ever seen and just hook on cooldown. That would be the only way to save this game. I know you're into a
this is the
Do it.
way.
Yeah,
Level
that's
one,
great.
good
That's
start,
great.
good
Okay,
start, good
now do
start.
that a million times
know-
more, and it could be an okay game.
I'm just going to say this right now as well. You said it was the only hope, and this is episode 4. This is game 4.
True.
It's all lining up.
Okay.
Now, what I need is for there to be some sort of Death Star equivalent here. Probably the Chaos Storm, let's be real, where I
True.
can yell, "That's no moon," as someone dies. There's no Diana for the moon to fall in that kind of regards, but I've got to find some other references, perhaps.
We will try our best. So, I mean,
We
speaking
will
of
follow
that,
your
Victor,
career with great interest, is where you should have gone with that, but your Star Wars
is that
meme
what we're
game is
getting
weak.
to? Is that really what we're getting to?
Yes.
I mean,
Oh, look, yes, it is. Of course it is. What did you think? Who is
Sam,
casting this game?
Sam, it's
yes.
okay. I was about to say, well, let the Wukong win. Is that as close to let the Wookiee win as we can get? So, it's better than I can do.
Yeah, that's
Much
not
better than I can do. So, mid lane is actually one of the few... I know Victor Corki has kind of been memed on, ironically, it's one of the most active control mage matchups that we've seen in the last couple of years. Particularly in this preseason into early season, we saw a lot of LPL teams. Particularly Knight was very good at this matchup, and killing Corki at like level 2, level 3. Actually, pre-6, Victor has a really good way of dealing with Corki, where you have level 3. If you actually, in this point, you've leveled up your death ray 2 times just for the extra poke. But once you get to that level 4, you get the gravity field. If Corki steps up and you get to take a hard trade and force him to Valkyrie on one wave,
Action.
use it a second time to force action. Oh. See, this is why I carried on. Anyway, right. Crux has flash. Senkux looks
Action.
safe for now.
Oh.
We shouldn't have got our hopes up, Sam.
I lived
That's
in
the lesson
hope.
that I learned.
It was a
Anyway.
new one, but the Empire of Nothing struck back.
This is almost as dreadful as the game.
Maybe
Almost.
we need to return the Jedi puns.
Okay, I'll give you that one. That's okay. That was a joke in 3 parts. Third part just about makes it work out. But either way, we are now looking at, effectively after this point, where these junglers are going to interact, because when you have stable lanes, it is largely about, okay, the micro advantages you can get to see where these junglers can end up after this point. Actually, interesting thing happening towards the top river. Carlsen might just be warding out. I was actually wondering if you had enough time to take that scuttle, but the wave wasn't in the correct place for that. I wasn't actually tracking those minions over there. Those fat champion pictures, hiding the minions on the minimap. But with the extra vision there, I think Astralis Town potentially could be looking for a double scuttle, and that's about as active as we're going to get in this early game.
Oh, this wasn't the bot simulator I was looking for. See with attacks and runs into Kroos. We're going to have a little bit of fighting. My days. This is actually action briefly. Just half a HP bar and a scuttle crab that's being traded forward. Kroos can't quite get in range for the smite, and Taxa secures that one. In fact, both scuttle crabs secured by the Wukong. Indeed, the Wookiee did win.
Are we blind? Deploy the support roams. I mean, Sareppa's helping. He's
Really?
there.
You said Rogue One puns, a man of your talent.
We were this close to greatness. Zaremba,
Where
it's
are we
going
with
on
this
his-
draft? I think we're quite a long way from greatness.
Shut up, let's talk about the game. Zaremba, move from bot lane, move to towards that top scuttle. I think that was the right move. Sadly, wasn't in the right place to actually secure that scuttle, and now Wukong has a micro advantage for now. And we'll go back to clearing their own jungle camps, and we are in a dreadfully low point in this game, as we saw.
Alex,
Yes. Hello.
it's time.
It's time for
What you have
what?
to understand, people, is that this is what we call the podcast section of the game. We have probably got
Right.
about 3.5 minutes until someone probably
We have
fights around a herald.
and that's about it.
Yeah, so we've got time to fill. So what we're going to do is you're
Run me
going
through
to start a topic, and we're going to riff on that for 2 minutes while we watch relaxing sights of people farming on the Rift.
Well, okay. Dragon's been taken. Okay, that's something interesting. It's not going to be contested, so we don't get to talk about the topic stormer. Well, you know, a lot of you today will notice we've gone on a certain theme of things.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that, I would love to, a lot of people have dreams of, I've made it in life when I have this.
Yes.
For me, I have 2 goals. One is having a hot tub at some point. The other one is having a really nice lightsaber. I really want a proper lightsaber. Oh, come on. Is Carlsen actually going to ignore?
Oh,
one
my
podcast?
days.
No, he's not.
Okay, fine.
So, there's that. Obviously, we've been playing.
Right, so I knew about the lightsaber because you've been
Yeah.
like looking for like awesome lightsabers to buy. I did not know about the hot tub bit. When does that be?
Okay, would you say that you don't want a hot tub?
I mean, I want a hot tub. It just wasn't like,
Well, there you go.
it wasn't
That
like,
seems as
top
simple
of my
as it
list of
gets.
dreams.
I can't really spell this out anymore for you, Sam. I want a hot tub.
Okay, well, you'll know Nymeria has decided to succeed when there's a hot tub picture coming up. What I will do as well, let's have a look at the hashtag NLC at home, and we have got somebody who is playing both sides. Hanivai, I think I pronounced that right.
Yes.
I apologize. Has got the outfits, the team jerseys of both teams playing
And
here.
you see, it just so happens that I know Hanivai, and I know that they are a Larsen fan. They're not in this game, but I'd like to shout that out and let
Wait.
the world know that this person has an unhealthy attachment to that player. As much as they're a great player,
Little bit of background of, like, this is going on, but that is a...
I mean, do I really have a standing to say on when I have my Ari bits? I have all of my Ari skits around. I'm like, haha, I say this in jest. It's great to see this kind of passion for
Absolutely.
the teams. It's great to see this passion for the teams.
This is basically what
those of you who are
happens.
sat at home and you do have a certain attachment to these teams, absolutely let us know. It's great to see, especially within our region, which has been, it gets a little isolated at times.
Ooh,
Top
flash
Look,
out of
Sam,
Hess0
we're
there.
not allowed to have actions.
I mean, no, we got a flash. That's the best we've got. And again, this is the kind of game where clearly people's loyalties are being torn between both sides. It's mom and dad fighting. It's that situation. It's what happens when Naimara watches the Telecom.
Telecom Wars, yes.
Because Aria plays for KT.
My favorite player, yes.
And T1 was the team that really got you into League of Legends.
My favorite team, yes.
So watching
painful
those fight is like
pretend
torture
I
on the
do
soul.
not see it. I just want both teams to do well. Well, both teams are actually turning up for the first time.
Have we got action? 8.5 minutes in. Flash hook. Is this it? Have we finally got something? It's
a clone. And that's the gravity field down. So now
Clone Wars
they
has
don't
begun.
have the zoning tools. Can they stay in the river, waiting for that extra hook? Zaremba, we told you.
Shock laser.
Up. Zaremba is our hope. Has the hook, has the ability to make the aggressive plays, and it hits Crispo.
That's a fair amount of damage. Now the cannon barrage coming through. Crispo trying to stay best alive as he can. We have actually got some actions, ladies and gentlemen. But Ericsson's still alive. No one's died quite yet until finally a 1-for-1 comes through. Nautilus for Crisberg, Zeri, but Kreox and Merbs are on very much the wrong side of the rift. There's a Mega Gnar coming up for Carlsen. Kreox trying to play this one out best he can with the Heartbreaker, but Merbs being left out to the wolves. No flash, no E, no hope. Senkups gets that one, and he's recalling. There's no one on the blast, and he won't reset even with the empowered Herald recall. Vanir get the Herald, but at what cost?
I applaud Zaremba. The psychic message has been received because this hook is what starts everything up. We knew that the Nautilus was pretty much the only person who was going to be starting off these fights in any serious way. It's actually a pretty damn good hook. Merbs does a great job, tags the W onto Crisberg during all of this as well, and gets most of Zeri's HP away from them. It's just not enough. The battle lines have already fallen apart. Actually, at this point in the game, before you get multiple points into your various abilities from Ezreal, you don't have as many Qs to get your E cooldown load. You don't have as many points to E to get your cooldown load. Like, your mobility is basically spent by this point, and Merbs, though they found their way onto that mission into the backline to kill the enemy AD carry, couldn't find a way out.
Oh, that was so close to getting out from Kreox. They thought he was going towards the blast and he tried to fake them out. Couldn't make it happen.
Close the blast doors. Didn't work in that case. Try the empowered recall.
Okay.
Needed
that's
about
upsetting.
15 more parsecs to get out of the... It's not a measurement of time.
I believe the castle
Doesn't
run was
make
only
any
12. Less than. Either way, enough references briefly, as we might actually be having a little more action coming up, more than perhaps we were anticipating with the drafts, as there were 40 seconds until an Ocean Drake spawns, and there's a Herald in inventory, and that might be used as something of a counterweight for Vanir, who, of course, did lose out in the fight that followed that, despite Zaremba finding the initial engage. Perhaps it was a cast a curse that came with that psychic message, because did eventually lose the following fight.
He could be aggressive. I didn't say if he'd win.
Monkey's Paw from Naimara, who gives what it was asked for, but at what cost? As might be a trouble, more action.
Zaremba!
It's happening as Zaremba is being exhorted to fight and is slain. That's significantly more joy from Naimara that I think is probably healthy, but the Nautilus does fall. Dragon is available. Of course, there is still the Herald inventory. The Kreox is kind of...
Zaremba. You know, I appreciate the mentality, because this draft should absolutely be one which is probably a little less active than this. If you don't have the Nautilus on the aggressive foot, probably not going to be as active as this. So they lose out on that play again, but helps us.
And Astralis take up another kill. They continue to extend their gold lead. And this is a team that, after a very disappointing spring split, considering expectations for the roster coming in, we are seeing a much, much better performance from them in the split, particularly in the last week. They started to pull a little bit ahead. They are at that 4-2 record. They're looking to move up to join Bifrost at 5-2 if they can make this happen. And that will put them very much in contention, not just for playoffs, but for making a run in said playoffs if they can keep this momentum
It's going to be very vindicating, right? You make one change to the roster, you change your head coach as well, and then you have now a good run of form. No, it's not been perfect. They did end up getting monstered in, particularly one of the losses, I believe it was to Bifrost, where it was a little bit of a shutout through the early game. But this roster is night and day difference from what happened in that spring split. You're absolutely right to bring that up, and so no.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Does have the arcane shift. Will there be a devour? There is, and that's of course no flash still remaining. You can throw an exhaust down, but I'm just not going to find enough. It's a kill for Chrisberg, and that is a big mistake. Unfortunately, should have been aware of that, but of course with the Abyss Dive being blind from the bush, makes it an easy punish. It's the clone that's hooked. The Herald won't get a proper charge, or actually finally just Taxa goes down. Package afterwards, those Kraox trying to trade this one out, looking for another one. Senkux has to flash away for the Heartbreaker. Can't quite secure the kill, but a boulder will do the job.
And sadly, even with Kraox taking on the form of Taxa, the attack of the clone champions is not enough from Vanir to foul Astralis on their own side of that rift. They get the Herald charge, it's a decent amount of gold in, but it's not enough to really get them back into a state in this game, which, I mean, again, it's fairly even, but even with that Herald could have been a big power play for them. Doesn't really lead to the advantages they wanted.
Well, as it stands, we've had more action than I think could have been a possibility in this game. Excellent cancel on the back, and Merbs is justly punished by Kiba, who is that member who's come in to switch the roster around and proving why he was worth.
Actually, really well positioned on the Tarnkash W, puts himself between Ezreal and the tower, gives him that extra room to auto-attack. The E not really able to carry them to a safe distance. And then, of course, there's the Blurry Shaft in the mid lane there. See the Wukong clone come out, but Gravity Field does a decent amount of work. Herald Charge actually adds in an extra bit of CC.
Yes.
But, I mean, the other part of this is that you do know the package is there. Again, the warning shot, the warning siren's gone off. They knew it was happening, but maybe didn't pay the respect they needed to that. Maybe they thought they could just win in an isolated 3v2, didn't expect Carlsen to come down. But yeah, package does a decent amount of damage and turns things around a little more in favor of Astralis than maybe it could have been.
Yeah, it's still a net positive trade for Vanir, of course, because they got the plates as well as a kill. In trade for just the one kill back. But, you know, it's not as clean as it should have been, I think it's fair to say. And Vanir, 2 and 4, were tied with X7 earlier in the day. Of course, X7 won with relative ease earlier on. It was a strong early game into a slightly slower mid game, partly because of that sort of snuck Baron that came through. But either way, it was largely a strong showing, particularly from the likes of MC. Vanir, if they want to keep track, need to win this game. Oh. And Zaremba once again being exhorted to find more action, more blood for the Blood Guard, Skulls for the Skull Thrones, and we'll change universes briefly.
Whenever I started becoming a Chaos cultist. It's not the timeline I particularly saw myself on.
Let's be real, what have you been, like, trying to push for this entire game?
Very true. This is the thing, right? Like, again, this is a conversation I have every so often. I like good, clean League of Legends. It's a gourmet meal. You get to have all of your balanced nutrients of
cheese for the second
rotations, the cheese for the second course, but you do like some good fast food gameplay every so often, just the absolute to-the-wall aggression.
Teleports.
There's a teleport coming in.
That
It's
counts.
one of those aggressive plays.
And to Mega Gnar, that's pretty much on the board for Carlsen as well. And Auto 2 will get it. Merbs being left to the walls. The teleport now coming back through on the side of Vanir. But what more can they get as Carlsen slams Ezreal into the wall. He belongs not in the museum, but in the morgue. As Zaremba now being left to die as well. A double for Carlsen's Gnar.
That is a really well-played timing by Astralis. They put down that deep ward. The unlocked teleport comes through. Now Hasira able to at least save that turret, but Astralis doing their best to pull away with this game. They have themselves a Herald in that mid lane. They'll not be able to finish off the entire turret, but a chunk onto it means that if they ever leave this lane again unattended, expect that objective to go down.
Maybe could have been saved for when more members were around, but look to be opportunistic. Gets a chunk onto the tower, and here's the teleport. And at that moment, Vanir and the members of the bot lane knew they were in trouble.
And of course, you don't have that flash from Merb still. Again, it's one of the problems with Ezreal. It's all well and good kiting when you're kiting away from someone. If you are flanked, if you're between a Gnar and a hard player setup. It's better if it's a Malphite. Either way, between two threats, your E is not enough. You need several of them. And at this point, you don't have the amount of Qs to get that off of cooldown. It really isn't enough to carry to safety.
There you go. That is very true, as I found the worst of the puns I could find in my brain to bring out to clarify your
I
statement.
think I'm glad I missed that one.
I said rock and a Gnar place.
Oh, that's even... Oh.
Yeah.
How did I think of that?
Well, there you go. You're just not as good as me. Covered that in the news segment earlier.
Let's get you on the Jungle Clay Challenge. Let's knock you down.
Oh, no, don't make me do that. There will be a disaster in the waiting for that one.
3 minutes 30, 3 minutes 27.
Yeah, that's looking more like a 4-minute clear, let's be real. My leasing skills are fairly subpar. especially when the par for course is like 320 or whatever it is right now.
327, that's what's
So in fairness, we did see one jungler not have smite and the other mess up their clear, MC and Taxa. Not having the best time. Of course, Taxa this game, very much looking pretty on point, all things said and done.
And, you know, particularly with these junglers, which have been players that have been... I mean, when you have the Wukong, you've had a certain amount of draft priority given towards you. Has been such an important champion, this Wukong. Even with nerfs to so many strong champions on the new patch, it has felt like Wukong has continued to be first pick, first ban. And Taxa being given the responsibility to say, take this priority champion, do damage, do work with it, has been pulling his weight.
Got a little bit of a conflation of players in the mid lane, but Creox will throw down the Harrowed Path and decide he does not want to be a part of that little brewing confrontation.
Zaremba, what do we talk about?
My guy, he's like you can't just like mind control the Nautilus
Just
into
watch
like.
me. Zaremba, this is Nymera, pull the hook trigger. Anyway, he's working his way.
Is that like your Obi-Wan impression with like Luke on the Death Star run?
You know, if I actually thought about
Use the hook, Zaremba.
Use the hook. Use the hook, Luke. He's turned off his targeting computer. He's not going to hit his skill shots.
Depth charge is point click. You don't need
He's
to
here again. Has himself a
Does
hex.
the depth charge count as a proton torpedo?
You know, the more we're forcing this analogy, the more it just kind of gives me this.
I know, it's giving me a surprising amount of joy. I suppose Corki at 2-1 is probably counts as a Death Star with the amount of damage he's throwing out.
You know, they are currently towards that top lane, which no structures have fallen in. So maybe you can worry about the champions and he can worry about the towers.
Oh no. No.
A little bit niche. Sorry for anyone who doesn't have a photographic memory of various quotes from that series of movies, but do have keep it diving in towards that red buff, smite forced away from Creox. And Creox, even though they have been one of the stronger individual performances, actually in the whole league, I think actually of the first couple of weeks.
Oh man, he's been afraid of this Tom catch the entire game as he's just been like, every time he's like, no, not again, surely not again.
Give him any more gold and it'll be the size of an Exegorth. That one is very niche. Yeah, look at that one.
That's not the planet, that's the
No,
weird...
that's the thing which they fly inside in episode 5. It's the big worm.
The big worm
Yeah,
thing in the asteroid. Oh, okay, well, thank you for clarifying. I had a moment that was like, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, Hester has to flash out here as Carlsen's just going to chase in. Never mind, Star Wars.
He fails
It's
it.
just going to be a solo kill. Carlsen, 4-0-2, having an absolute stormer of a game.
Oh gosh, just failing the barrel change, but trades out that flash. And Carlsen, for all that they were a fairly, I'm not going to say inexperienced, but on a comp level they were.
Yes.
This player in the individual 1v1s has been a shining star for this team, actually throughout the entire year. This individual prowess of Carlsen was not something that we really criticized too much. Had a couple of off games when he was put on the weak side of the map, but when he's given these strong matchups, has continued to shine. 4-0-2 now, solo kill involved in that. Carlsen, seriously good game so far.
Very much so, 500 gold bounty on top of his name. Definitely a worthy target to pick up if he can get onto the likes of Merbs or Ericsson.
Oh, it's the dive.
See the dive instead. I turn my head for a second to look at my co-commentator, and Chrisberg secures a kill. A Nara into a wall because Carlsen's there, and that one's picked up by Taxa, who taxes the life bar of Vanir. Creox now forced away. Hesir does land, or try to land a barrel chamber. It doesn't really amount to much. Creox forced to Heartbreaker out. 2 kills and a tower, and Astralis making us eat our words a little bit about a passive game.
That is exactly what I was going to say. And I was just like, hey, you know we were talking about how this could be basically just 2 ranged compositions with low engage just kind of facing off against each other and staring at each other menacingly. I am so glad Astralis have been pulling TP flanks, have been diving under these towers, have been using the aggressive tools that they do have in efficient ways. It's been actually very fun to watch. We're only 21 minutes in, and actually we have a decent amount of kills for that.
We really do.
We're used to just about maybe 0.5 kills per minute, once every other minute. We're getting above that now, actually, at this point, and I'm glad, for one, that we're not sat here after that draft, after all, with thought, thank you, both these teams.
Well, for once, I'm very happy to be proved wrong. We were all a little bit nervous. We were all a little bit hysterical, perhaps the way to put
there we
it
go
is.
again.
Ericsson forced to flash out there. Not having the easiest game of it on this Victor. Been a little bit removed from a lot of the plays.
You know, at least we are, of course, getting that aggression, and you know, we were worrying about so much, and now, actually, with that Soul point being on the table early as well, we're almost certainly going to have some big team fights around a Soul or an Elder or a Baron. It's getting to that point where Astralis can force the hand of Vanir. They take that no contest, and at this point, you have to start asking Vanir, okay, how do you start stabilizing? They've been dove on, they've been not actually been able to disengage the aggressive plays, even though their comp is pretty good at that. You have gravity fields, chaos storms, Ezreal, kiting, barrels, gangplank ult, so many things which say if you dive into us and you mess up, we can punish you. They've actually not been able to do that because Astralis have been choosing their plays, weighting the numbers in their favor so much that it hasn't mattered. They go with so many people to an area of the map, Vanir can't play out their disengage.
Still, 2 items have started to come through for Vanir, and if they can hold on to something like a third item, Cesar manages to escape from the attempted engage, but you've got a Death Cap and a Leandries on this Victor. You've got a Muramana and an Essence Reaver in Merb's pockets. If you can secure a third item here, something like a Void Staff for the Victor, or maybe something like maybe a Zhonya's to survive some of the dive, and similarly something additional for Merbs, they're going to start hitting pretty hard. They are actually dangerous scaling carries here, and that third item comes through, and Astralis may start to sweat a little more than they have in this early game.
You're actually getting to the point where a lucky crit from a Gangplank Barrel, a bit of uptime on auto-attacks and keys from Merbs, or of course just a Chaos Storm in the right position, and suddenly you start clumping up into the wrong carries, and Astralis are not safe in this game. Now, they are still very, very overwhelmingly likely to close out this game in my eyes right now. They've hit those item breakpoints fairly well. I think, you know, with that Dragon advantage too, it just means that they, as long as their heads are screwed on straight when it comes up to these objectives, they should be able to force Vanir to come into them, which is not really where they want to play. Just need to see Astralis' decision-making, be calm, be confident, make sure that they don't allow Vanir's carries to really come into the slim situations where they should succeed.
Vanir, though, trying their very best to stall out this game. The early moments of action from that kind of herald to the 20-minute mark have slowed down over the last few minutes. There's a lot of those easier objectives for Astralis to gather, namely those outer towers have gone. They're waiting really potentially for this soul fight in 3 minutes, and Vanir are doing their very best to take control of the Baron bit and the upper river and trade.
So, going towards their mid-prio.
Wait. This is actually a little bit more action. It says Zero in danger. Finds himself on the end of an abyssal dive. Trying the very best sail out the cannon barrage coming through. And the gangplank's alive. The turnaround's starting to come through. Carlsen doing their very best, but Kiba into the cannon barrage, trying to stay alive as well. He will. Tax's clone being chunked up, and Taxa gets devoured. And somehow, someway, no one is dead. Wait, Merbs! Went looking for it, couldn't find it with the flash.
And that was very, very dangerous from Astralis. What did we say? Don't give Vanir the ability to play the kite back, play around their carries. And while we were saying, look, honestly, the way the map's been set up, it feels like Astralis should be closing out. They should be able to force Vanir away from their comfort zones, their composition. Immediately after we say that, the next fight they take is the wrong one.
And they lost so many summoners. Taxa, Senkux, Crispberg, Kiba, all down flash from that play.
They lose. Mid lane out of turret. That's an objective bounty. That's control of the map. 2 minutes left on the mountain dragon spawn as well. Means that Vanir can potentially reset, push in with that an extra ability to push that mid-wave through onto the other side of the map and get themselves into a more advantageous position than they probably should have been have had access to. Words are hard.
They are a little bit, and what could also be a little bit dangerous and hard to deal with would be corky rockets like that. But also, I'm looking at Victor, I'm looking at Ericsson, who is a completion cost away from a Void Staff in inventory. Can he get there before the Dragon's on the table?
But also, you're looking at Ravenous Hydra almost coming in from Senkux. Senkux, you've got the Infinity Edge waiting a couple of 100 gold away from Crispberg. And they, of course, are huge poke champions. They play at range. Not sure if Vanir can really threaten that. However, looks like we could have that objective trade again. Dragon for Baron. Vanir starting it up. Vision from Astralis, though. They're coming to contest.
It's not just Dragon, it's Soul, but they know they want to try and fight before the item completions come through. Down to 6,000 HP, it's already low. Tax is around, they're going to try and turn. It's onto the clone, though, and Zaremba taken so low, that hook, that curse you laid on him earlier. Coming back to bite him as Carlsen, nearly a mega! Senkux deletes the Nautilus, he dives down deep into the abyss. He's dead to rights, and now Vanir are down a member, and the Baron's alive, and the Dragon's about to follow, and I think that might be it.
That was a gambit from Vanir. They tried to play the savvy hand, say, okay, let's go get this off of the cooldown of that Dragon, see if we can play around the vision, maybe sneak it away as we've seen other teams do earlier in the day, but they don't quite land the punch. Clone comes out from Taxa again, tanks up that hook from Zaremba. Zaremba is not a tanky Nautilus. Goes down, Vanir not able to play around their effective ranges, and Astralis confidently pick up that kill, see themselves through that soul.
They do indeed. There's the soul. There's no way really to fight it.
Actually,
And
I was wondering actually if there was enough DPS on the top side of the map to deal with that, but it's not going to be the case. Just some vision cleared out from Hess0, and now Vanir lose out on that play in quite a huge way, even though they were handed potential openings from that earlier mid lane fight, and even though there weren't as many kills from that fight, it was just a case where they had potentially better setup, and now they're finding themselves into that Mount Soul, into that slim gold lead at this point in the game. They're not feeling too comfortable now.
no, Vanir do now secure themselves a Void Staff in the inventory of Ericsson's Victor. And Merbs is pretty close to becoming a courier, sending Lord Dominic's regards on their way if they can just secure the completion.
Let them know. I want them to know it was me. We're really hitting on all the...
Yeah, they're like
all the
just
nerd franchises today.
general pulp nerd references. We've not done any Marvel ones. That's about it so far.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there is a point... it's like, how far do we have to go before we start pondering our morb?
I don't think anyone's really morbed out in this game, and I'm yet to hit that point where that's kind of really become a thing.
We've
for
got
me.
Merb. We can
Oh, we
ponder
Merb out. No, Merbius.
Yes, let's go.
Well, he has not got a surreal disgrudge. It's not a Lord Dominic's regards. It's a grudge.
I'm so sorry if you have to listen back to this. We are really clutching at straws for really insane references, but that Ezreal hitting that 3 items, have to keep an eye on that carry on the bot side of the map from Vanir.
I don't know. The problem is I'm never going to be able to look at Merbs the same way again now. I'm so sorry. At least for the rest of this game.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll workshop it. We'll see what happens with it.
It's just waiting for Merbius too. That's all it is.
Oh, aren't we all? Aren't we all? See if they can sweep that fight away. Astralis have that soul, able to tank up a bit of poke, even if those Ezreal Qs land with that mountain shield. Taxa going towards that Baron, immediately spotted out by a blue trinket. Now we have all members coalescing.
It's that time of day. It's time to flip the Baron, and we're going to see whether Astralis can hold on. Kraox has got Heartbreaker but no flash. It's a good cannon barrage that will force Astralis away for now. Looking potentially for a turn, but won't really be able to find it. 4 minutes until a potential Elder Dragon spawn. That's about it.
That's the cannon barrage down. You've now just regened that man shield, and you are very, very happy to go straight back to this. That's one fighting tool now no longer available for Vanir. They still need to make this approach. Carlsen.
Gonna go in. That's a Cyclone as Zaremba flashes away. Crispberg over the wall with the lightning surge.
What are
The
you
crash
doing?
down is so much problem. There is a Devour and a Rocket secures the kill. Now that's what I call team fighting. Taxa goes on in and continues to swing through them all. It's a Buntareve classic as the bounties are being secured as best they can.
You can only do that because you have a mounted soul, and you have a shield bow, and you have a Tom Kench. That is ridiculous amounts of safety. I was sat there watching going, what the heck are you doing? That's way too deep. You're diving into the Victor. It's the one place they can really turn this around, but try as they might, throw themselves into death's mouth, and they do come out alive. Get the power play on top of it, come out with a clean team fight, clean Baron take, lose no one for it.
I mean, I would potentially say not clean. I'll call it effective.
Okay,
but not
deathless,
necessarily
that's
clean.
the word.
As we do see the engage come through, and it was decently buffed from Zaremba, but then Crispberg just goes all
This is ridiculous.
in.
This is ridiculous, because one of the reasons why Victor was seen as a good answer into this area is because you can do that. You dive into the Victor, you start doing damage, and he just mullers you. He absolutely turns you into mush. But at this point, even with level 16, huge itemization from Ericsson is not enough at that point, and credit to Crispberg, I didn't believe it when I saw it. Gets away with it.
Just about. That's the stopwatch broken as well. Third item finally complete for Hess0, who, with that collector, maybe can try and secure the kill that was denied from them there with the timely flash devout from Kiba. But now with the Baron in inventory, Astralis continuing to shove in with the soul, with the gold lead, with the map control. As my days, 3-item Corki pretty much takes 2/3 of Merm's health bar in one ability.
You may fire when ready, and actually, you know what? If Crispberg lands a W on top of that as well, that probably
Yeah.
is that laser you're looking for. And forget the Victor on that E. On this patch in particular, Zeri's W, because it can crit, because it gets amped up by Infinity Edges, crit damage too becomes so ridiculous. However, while this is happening, we're looking at this damage happening in this large amount of siege being pulled off from Astralis. Talon, GP has at least managed to get an objective bounty on the other side. Is it enough? You're losing 3+ towers for this. It is pennies in the bucket of the deficit that they're trying to recoup from.
Very much so. As Chrisberg now onto this inhibitor. So slippery, so safe with Kiba behind them as well. One is down. That inhibitor turret in the bot lane. Under siege as well. One final cannon minion remaining as Krayox. Stepping forward, looking to see if they get on Senkox. The battle station may be fully operational, but maybe has a weakness or two to be exploited if they can just get on top of the core keeper. Krayox won't pull the trigger. Vanir, they're bleeding out. They need to find something, or it's going to be lights out very shortly.
And while we did see that, Zero found some ways to play the map. Turrets going down across the board. Astralis playing around that extended range. They don't have to force the engage. They've got those W's, got those rockets. Vanir clutching at straws yet again. Where can they find the engage? There's one final effort left in them. They have to find something. Maybe a barrel, maybe Chaos Storm in the right place. Vanir, though, odds are against them. Goes even lower when Merv takes poke like that.
Astralis are now here to finish the fight best they can. Going to put in another massive rocket. The barrage from Senkox is just monumental. It's world-ending. It'll certainly be game-ending as Merv's taken down to 10% HP this time. No one dead, but the structures are falling. Astralis looking to end it, looking to move to 5-2, looking to tie up with Bifrost. Krayox will go unstoppable, but not as unstoppable as Astralis are in their rise up the table. Nexus under siege, and Astralis secure their 5th win of the summer split.
They're going to pump up those DPM numbers. Make sure they can get a little bit more up on those stats boards, but 5-2 now for Astralis, pushing Vanir down to 2-5. So sadly for Vanir, not able to catch both X7 and of course Noriki just above them on those 3 win points. And at this point in the split, we are starting to see some of those top and bottom groups start to form. These wins are starting to matter more and more. As you said at the start of the day, you have to get beyond this early split, find that identity, settle in. And Vanir at this point, really, really struggling to string together those wins.
It might have been a Victor Corky game, but we did see some early action. And Astralis, after a bit of a slower mid to late game, close it out in pretty clean fashion. But that's enough from us. Over the desk we go. We'll see you in a few minutes for our final game.
Thank you, Initialize, and welcome back to the desk after this game that could be really slow, but it wasn't, specifically because of one play. We were talking about that, the play that opened up the map where everybody went to the Astralis.
Yeah, like to set it up as well, I felt like both of these teams scaled pretty well into the late game. We mentioned it as well, all 3 lanes for both teams. But when it came to Astralis, having that Corky package mattered a lot. Having the Wukong, having the Megana in those choke points when you want to fight for the 5v5s into the neutral objectives, I think was the key. And I think we also have like a replay to showcase that. It was a very early Herald fight, if I'm not wrong, from Astralis. Exactly, 8 minutes in, Meganar jumps in, Wukong jumps in, and suddenly it's like a winning fight for Astralis. Oh wow, we have you double on our screens.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Watching me is already painful, 2 of me. Yeah, that was a good one because both teams, there we go. This is at the point where the early composition from Astralis could actually pop off versus.
And I think this is just, I mean, this is kind of like Vanir. They have the only engage is the Nautilus. I mean, that hook just looks super solid, right? But then afterwards, the only kind of card that Vanir has is they have to perma-kite back. In this fight, they don't get to do that. And that was kind of just falls apart for them. I mean, obviously, Astralis has so many more tools in this early game. You mentioned the Wukong, the Gnar as well, both being on a flank this time around. And while Vanir got like the first-hand engage, that's not really how you want to fight with these carries. And you said as well, Trouble, like in the Grimmer, that this is just way too early for the Vanir comp to fight, not kind of before they're online. And I think this one is just a solid one where you should just crossban.
Yeah, and I feel like also Astralis had Soul at some point. It was a Mountain Soul. They start Baron at one case, and the Gangplank ulti falls on them, and they can just tank it with Mountain Soul and just walk out and then go again, right? So their composition was scaling. They had their tanks. They had their go button in the likes of a Megana and a Wukong. And I just feel like teams who start peaking Viego start missing a really big go button, right? Especially since Volibear has been open so many times and teams seem to opt a lot more onto that Viego rather than the Volibear.
I completely agree. I just have to say as well that Vanir, I feel like they kind of betted on the fact that Astralis hasn't been able to like get consistently early game leads by just picking all this scaling. But it just for the Viego as well, I'm just not really sure what he is supposed to accomplish this game. He cannot really play through any lane, and Astralis it's all on them to make this game a dub. And I think that's not really how you want to progress as well as Vanir, because you want the game to be your fault that you lost, not necessarily because the enemy just played their comp better.
It's going to be an interesting interview with Astralis because I have with me in the studio to talk with me, Chetson.
Chadson.
It's your new nickname. Sorry, man. You're Chetson now. You did an amazing game. Welcome to the show. Your Gnar was popping off. It was a blind pick Gnar as well. So I want to start why is everybody leaving? Why is...
Maybe it's you, Ashram.
Is this
Maybe it's
Dude,
you.
stop scaring everyone away.
Maybe you should swap
him.
shares again. I think
I was
that's the
complimenting.
You know what? We're going to have M-Test welcome our interviewees from now on so we don't scare them away.
I'm sorry, man. That's
It's going to
just,
be like, okay, so for the loser here, we're going to have M-Test be like, say the truth. Was it Yi that played Jungle Dave?
or was
Hello
it?
again.
Oh,
I
he's
think
back.
that's
So
Hello,
I
Carlsen.
think we had some technical issues.
Technical issues, wasn't it? It was a button. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding with you. Okay, picking the Gnar, the blind pick Gnar, do you still believe you cannot be punished by that when you have Irelia buffed as well, other champions? Do you still feel comfortable with the Gnar blind pick?
No, I mean, I'm quite confident in playing it. I feel like there are a lot of niche counter picks to it, but a lot of players are not willing to play it. So I feel quite safe when picking Gnar.
Talking about
sure.
feelings before I head on to you, talking about feelings right now, Carlsen. How are you feeling with this composition? Because on a previous split, you were shining, but there was something that was lacking on Astralis' composition. And you guys stood strong. A few changes, not much. And it's a new team. It's a new breath of fresh air for your team. How are you feeling this split?
I feel like we are a lot more confident going into our games. It's still a thing that we need to work on a lot, but we have a more clear goal going into team fights in the mid game. And I feel like it's working a lot better for us now.
Honestly, I want to say congrats for the 5-2 record so far. You guys seem to have been doing so well. I saw Tax's tweet that says, you know what, we're still a little bit hesitant in the early game. We're still not as aggressive as we would like to be. And honestly, I'm guessing like with 12-11, it gives you a lot more opportunities to sort of maybe try for these tower dives. And we saw a lot of proactivity, not just by you know, simply solo killing a laner, because this can always happen, but also a lot of movement from your team. So is that a goal for you to move forward, being a little bit more proactive?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to be more proactive in the early game. We feel like we can push our leads a lot more in the games that we play.
This is going to be more of a personal question on this matter of this split. If you could pick any team right now that you could fight against to show how much you evolved and how much the team has evolved as well, which team would you pick?
JDXL. I feel like we have a way better chance of beating them this time. It was kind of disappointing to lose to the last time, but I feel like we've already improved from since then.
That's confidence, man. I like to hear that. Congratulations on the way you're performing this split. Congratulations on the new nickname, Chetson, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Now you
Bye.
can leave.
Bye.
Now you
And
can.
the wave.
Hey, wave.
Now it's at the end of the interview that they can leave. That's a really good spirit coming in from Astralis. They were so defeated on the last split, obviously with a team as big as this one, almost at the last spot, and now almost at the top. And they want to face JDXL. So this is a new Astralis.
You know what?
To the stars.
You didn't seem happy with the 5-2 record, right? They're like, we keep
want
pushing,
more.
boys.
Yeah, no.
We keep grinding.
Yeah, I mean, Carlsen looked super composed there as well. He was just not having it, like literally zero emotions, as he mentioned. And maybe it's a victory over JDXL that we have to get an interview off of him again if they do decide to just beat them there. It would be nice to see some
be
emotions
fair,
coming from Carlsen.
For your sake, someone has to end the JDXL
Someone
streak,
needs to
right?
defeat JDXL.
Like at this
only
point, you're gonna be
one.
like, praise, guys. It's
No, I'm
Doesn't matter
contacting
who.
players and coaches. Guys, come on, can we do this? Can we do this week? I'm like, nah, man, they're
Big
really strong.
Pantheon, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it gives you 5% more. But this is really good for Astralis on the other side, though. Vanir, they had a solid composition. They had everything they needed. And at one point in the game, they almost seemed like they could do it if Astralis was not that far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the thing as well, right? I think so many teams, these players that I've been talking to as well, and coaches feel like you can just get a good edge, really a good edge in draft. This is really important right now. And just seeing this game once again, that Vanir picks just 3 scaling lanes, hoping to not get as punished as it did this game. I mean, I think Astralis just feels really comfortable after the game like this, right? They played their lanes well. They played really proactively. They were not as scared as maybe the last time around, as Saxa were mentioning. They were not scared to fight on that Herald. And yeah, I mean, just props to them. They're improving.
I was missing the MC factor from Vanir. I think Krerix is an excellent mechanically jungler, and I've seen his listen. I've seen what he can do in the early game. I've seen how aggressive he can be, how his impact in the early game can impact lanes to snowball further. So the fact that Vanir went for like a completely scaling composition, also with the Viego that's a little bit more inactive in the early game, sort of was a head scratcher for me because I'm like, I see Wukong, maybe Lee Sin could work into this champion, maybe you get a very strong mid-jungle duo, and then you allow your side lanes to scale into the late game, but at least you have a lane to plane through.
You know what? Let's make that question to the coach. Let's talk with Flash to
Is it
understand.
Flash?
It is Flash. He's back in the show. Welcome back, Flash.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Hello.
this game could go both ways. It was a tough one to begin with. It seems like the team had everything they needed, but as soon as they fought Astralis on that early game where they could get their spikes, the Mega Gnar, the package as well, you almost succeeded on that fight. Do you believe that fight solidified what Astralis was looking for?
I mean, like obviously, Gnar didn't have the Mega, so we were going for a fight. However, I think that we should just trade the plays on the bot lane, just not to fight, just scale. And like this game with the draft, it reminds me a little bit of our game versus Neriki last split, when we had a full scaling comp and we just waited like 20 minutes. Our spike started fighting and we were winning everything. So I think this is what we were lacking a little bit this game, like the patience and just trading the objectives. But yeah, like win is improved, so I hope we can learn from that. And I think the playoff the chances for the playoffs are still there. So yeah, I think we'll just work twice as hard as we did.
I just had to take this opportunity to kind of have Flash to say hi. I missed you, and we were talking a lot about like identity on today's broadcast as well. And I kind of want to ask you about that because today we saw you guys. You were drafting so many scaling lanes and maybe lanes that are not supposed to win, but you get online when you get the 2 and 3 items. Would you say that this is like kind of the identity for Vanir for now, or do you think that you can play like a lot of different comps?
I mean, we can play a lot of different comps. However, scaling right now is what is the best. You can see it in every league, basically. With a lot of scaling champs. The early game champions are not that good because of the buffs on the armor and stuff. So we'll see how the meta will develop. It differs a lot, especially during the LEC. You can see the Talia presence, especially. It's not even present in the LEC because it's easier to abuse her. And it's really strong pick in the ERLs because they're just scaling, dealing a lot of damage. So later on, so yeah, like it's really hard to say what we are looking right now.
I just want to say that Emstes here is a really big fan of yours. And even though we joke a lot on the desk and we're like, don't listen to Toro, guys. This guy next to me, Emstes, was like, all Vanir needs to do is listen to Flash. So I'm sure your team trusts you as much as Emstes next to me trusts you. And I don't know, obviously moving forward, are you looking for something in particular that you want your team to focus on to improve?
I mean, I think what we have to focus on is the consistency. Like our first games were really good from like our creativity and like let's say the macro perspective from the M&M. We had a game like versus the M&M when we didn't fight for 12 minutes and we were getting a lot on the map. I think we have just to follow the steps basically. Think about what our draft can do, what the enemy draft would like to do. Like it's not really about the individual performance of the players. It's just how we play as the team. What we have in our minds, how we want to play, if we are on the same page. If we will be lacking this, then it will be so hard to win. However, like we had a JDXL game, we had the M&M game. We lost because we didn't know what to do with the sidelines, basically, versus the JDXL game. We were just like ramming. We lost the game. We also gave the shutdown to them, and the M&M game was really good, and this is a perfect example. And I'm using it as example. And for example, in Dusty, I was using our Fnatic game to motivate the players a little bit, but yeah, we couldn't get anything. But yeah, I mean, if we can just fix these things, then we'll be winning much more. But yeah.
Strong words coming in from you, man. Thank you so much for another interview and best of luck for the future. Let's see if you guys can pull it off. Have a nice one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
See ya. And there you go.
Very insightful.
You got to listen to him.
Yeah.
MTS is right on that one. I got an opportunity.
Listen to Clash.
Exactly. I got an opportunity to
It's
have
easy.
a big interview with him on the previous split, and then after the interview, we talked for like 30 minutes. It's really insightful. This guy knows a lot. You really need to hear your coaches, aside from Torok.
Except from Tor.
Yeah, that one,
No Torok.
don't do it. Just listen to the standings right now to understand how things are going. On week 4 right now, almost at the middle of the split, JDXL still undefeated, but look at Astralis on 2nd place, solidifying it. This is something that we didn't got on the previous split. Vanir took a huge shot in the back today.
You know what? It's so crazy that Astralis keeps getting these W's by first as well. And now our next team is going to be Dusty versus Riddle, right? Spoiler, but one of these two teams is also going to go on to 5-2 because they're playing each other. And we're going to have, again, 3 teams chasing JDXL's tail. And I'm just wondering when this fairy tale is going to end for all 3 because somebody's going to have to pull through.
Yeah.
I mean, Arkham is praying for it, right? Maybe Astralis, as Carlsen said, that's the kind of victory that is going to put a really big smile on his face. And maybe those are the ones that can take JDXL down. But for now, I mean, just super excited. I think, I can't contain myself for this next game, honestly.
Okay, so
just
let's
wanna
bring it
win
in.
ASAP.